it's a little more complicated than just saying, let's pass it, cut 1% a year, and then boom, we're home free. In order to do that, you've got to have agreements by the House and the Senate on how you're reforming all of the entitlements. Now, I think that bill, once it's scored, and assuming the CBO score says what Connie Mack is saying, is that it'll balance the federal budget in 6 years, you probably would see that bill go through committee, come to the floor of the House, and come for a vote. It is certainly gaining a lot of momentum, and it does have support on both sides. But again, he just introduced it. He's only introduced it within the last 30 or 60 days. So you do have to wait for that process to unfold. And but I suspect that one may go through the process a lot quicker than other pieces of legislation.
Thank you, Congressman. Next question from James Wood regarding immigration.
Yeah, I'd like to know what's going on with controlling the borders. I mean, that dropped off the scope. I know the budget issues come up. What's going to control the border so we don't have all these murders happening in our country, coming from Mexico across the border, killing innocent Americans in their homes, and going back across the border with immunity? I mean, what's going to go on? What are we going to do about it? I mean, allow that to go on forever? I mean, Congress hasn't done anything for how many years now? Controlling the border. They're going to build a fence, they stop building the fence, then they're going to do surveillance over UAVs. What's that going to accomplish? Because it doesn't accomplish nothing. You've got, what, a handful of border control people down there trying to control, what, a couple 1,000-mile border?
Well, the part of the fence was built. It has not been completed. You were right that it has not been a level 1 or tier 1 issue over the last several months because we've been in Congress, because we've been dealing with all of these other issues. It is the policy issue of where to go next, and the funding for it is in committee. I believe that it's probably going to come out of committee, not this calendar year, but sometime next calendar year. And we'll have to wait to see what the legislation is, but I favor completing the fence, ensuring that we do have the requisite funds to ensure you don't have anyone illegally coming into the country. I do support legal immigration. I want people to come to our country to become legal. I think it's a very simple request. I know many people want to come to our country. It's the greatest country in the world, but the one simple request and I think many Americans have is come to our country legally, and we would gladly have you. But there are significant and serious danger zones. We are putting a lot of our men and women in harm's way, including those who are trying to get here illegally. So I don't think, as a matter of fact, I went to a naturalization ceremony when I was mayor. It was the first one I'd ever been to. If anyone has not been to one, I would encourage you to go. It is an amazing ceremony. And to see about 100, 125 people who are taking the oath, who can't wait to become Americans, gives you an idea of how great our country is, and how much it's worth protecting, and how much it's worth preserving. But you see the look in an eye of a new American who can't wait for that hope and opportunity that our country provides, that we have because we're born here. It is fascinating. It's amazing. But that's the kind of way in which I want people to come to our country. Come honorably, come legally, and do it in such a way that makes you proud to call yourself an American.
Okay, next question will be from Lisa Dexter. She had a question regarding the housing industry.
Hi. Regarding unemployment and getting the economy going, nobody seems to be talking about housing, and that creates so many jobs in so many different areas, and I just don't hear anything about it.
About the housing sector? Or?
Yeah, the whole housing sector. I mean, you know, it just creates a lot of jobs if they do something.
Yeah.
Like they had the first-time home buyer credit, or, you know, I mean, get creative here and get it going, because, you know, it's not getting any better out there.
Well, I talk about the 9.1% unemployment rate. In the construction business, it's about 16 to 17% nationwide. It's a significant problem right here in New Hampshire, too. I've met with a lot of construction-related industry businesses, they are suffering. They are absolutely suffering, right here in our backyard. Our unemployment in New Hampshire is relatively low, comparatively speaking, to the rest of the country. It still does not, I think, provide comfort to those who are still looking for a job, and most notably those who are underemployed. We have a lot of people who have lost their job, are receiving, have a second and a third job, but are earning less than they were a year or two ago. And cost of living has skyrocketed. I think most people fill up your gas tank, go home and fill up your oil at home to heat your home. You go grocery shopping. I mean, your grocery shopping bill is about 22% more today than it was about a year ago. I believe that part of where we got into this mess was housing, but I also believe what's going to get us out of this is housing. Now, I don't know how many people are here from Manchester, but how many of you, well, you don't have to necessarily raise your hand, but I came home this week and I opened up my mail and I got my appraisal statement from Vision Appraisals. I have yet to meet anybody whose appraisal went up. Mine went down. Everyone I've asked, they've said it's gone down. Manchester's a $10 billion asset. The only way to make up that difference is to raise the tax rate, and hopefully that if everyone was reduced roughly the same percentage, their tax rate is not going to increase beyond what was set by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. But this is a fundamental problem within the framework and structure of our economy. When houses aren't selling, when they're losing value, there's less construction, there are less people moving. It has everything to do with the consumer confidence of our nation. We do need to see something in that arena occur. Otherwise, we're not going to come out of this recession anytime soon.
We need to get rid of Fannie and Freddie.
Well, Fannie and Freddie were just downgraded after by Standard & Poor's. I would argue they probably should have been downgraded a couple of years ago, but S&P decided that they wanted to wait and see what was going to happen with the country first. I think if they were, in their opinion, more honest with the country and said, what I think most people feel is that they had something to do with the subprime lending and the mortgage crisis, that there would have been maybe a correction a lot earlier. But they just got downgraded.
They were at the heart of the whole problem of deception in the lending.
But that's why I say, S&P should have looked at them, or Moody's or Fitch for them. I don't want to just pick on S&P, but S&P is the only one that is downgraded. The argument is they should have been downgraded, and we ought to be looking at different methodologies and different manners to try to move the housing market. But we're not going to get out of this unless the housing market starts to lead and the construction market starts to lead. And I can tell you, as recently as a couple months ago, in my meetings with realtors here in New Hampshire, as well as members of the construction industry, they are not optimistic that anything is going to happen anytime soon. So I think we're still in for another long period of time before we feel confident about this economy again. It's about 7:15. Let me try to take a couple more questions, and then I can stay if people have further questions after, but I don't want to keep people here longer if they've got other things to do. So let me see if we can get through a couple more.
Okay. Next question, Harriet Bingle. She had a question regarding cutting the congressman's office budget.
Hi, Harriet.
How's it going, Frank?
I'm good. Can I tell Maureen you said hi?
Yes, please do. And thank you for being brave enough to actually come here and talk to us face to face. Put you in Washington, D.C. because you're young, you're fresh, you're green, innovative thinking, out of the box. Heard something about a biannual budget. That's a very New Hampshire thought, I'll have you say no. What other out-of-box thinking have you proposed, and who have you crossed the corridor to start doing? This is all about compromise. We have to listen, we have to have informed decisions. So who are you team building with?
Well, the two most notable people, this is a great question. And during our campaigns, we like to label people who are running liberal, conservative, Tea Party, this, that. I don't know how people end up labeling me. You all have an idea individually of what you think of my ideology. For those of you who say, Frank's a conservative, you're probably not going to like the answer to this question. but the two people that Barney Frank and Dennis Kucinich, which is not something,
Wow, very good.
which is not something that I ever thought I would be saying. But I have to say, and I was in Hooksett, at the Hooksett Town Hall meeting the other night, and as soon as I said, I think it was Hooksett, or was it Londonderry? Maybe it was Londonderry. As soon as I said Barney Frank, there was one individual who got very upset with me. I said, wait a minute, let me explain. Let's not rush to judgment. And the legislation that I'm working with Barney Frank on, again, is the fisheries issues. It's pro-jobs. It's about New Hampshire and Massachusetts. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you a funny story. When I first got into office, my first week, one of the people in my office came into my personal office and said, "Sir, Barney Frank's on the phone." And I said, "For me?" And he said, "Well, I don't think he's calling for me." So I got on the phone, and Barney introduced himself and said, "We have, obviously some fisheries issues that are affecting Maine and New Hampshire and Massachusetts." And it is really a true example of how Republicans and Democrats, Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts, are working to make sure that the industry stays alive. And really, the fundamental problem, we have a lot of small business owners, small boats, who are getting, they're getting pushed out of the industry by larger corporations that have massive, huge boats. And if you ever get a chance to go to Hampton, drive up and down Seabrook, and go see some of the fishermen, and see some of the boats that are coming in, and the fish that we get to enjoy during the summer months, during the course of the year, take a look at the faces of the people who are bringing those fish in. And spend a minute and ask them how their day was. They don't get up at 6, 7 in the morning, take a shower, put a suit on, get in a car, go into an office, have a cup of coffee, and have meat. That's not their life. Their life is tough. Being on the sea for months at a time in phenomenal weather conditions is extremely challenging. But these people still want to do it. And they want to make sure that they preserve what is a New England custom. So that, Barney and I are working together to make sure that that is preserved. And the other individual is, I happened to meet Dennis Kucinich when he ran for president. Met him right down in Elm Street. As everybody knows, we get to meet just about every single presidential candidate. We can have them in our homes. We can make them drive us around if we need to. That's the benefit of being in New Hampshire. So I first met Dennis Kucinich when he was running for president. But after the issues with Libya, he was leading the charge in Congress to ensure that our troops would not continue to be deployed and our resources, financial and other, would not be utilized in Libya. And I will tell, it's okay to clap, that's all right. And if you don't know, he happens to be a Democrat. So,
very liberal too.
So
Yes.
he would say that it's not he wouldn't take that as a negative. But yes, he would say that about himself. So, what I found interesting in Washington is that some Republicans said, well, can't support his bill. And there were a lot of us and said, well, wait a minute, why not? His bill made sense. His bill was very simple. It said within 14 days, bring everybody home and all of our assets home. And I proudly, against my own party, supported him and supported that legislation because it was the right thing to do.